Hey, welcome back to Coaches at Crown Brew Getting Coffee. I got a great guest today, as always. I want to thank my sponsors, first of all, Crown Brew, for being open today and letting us be here and film this as they have for now 60 plus episodes. I want to thank Ross and Abby, as always, for producing and editing and filming and taking care of all the tough part of this, where I get to just have a conversation with great coaches and media personnel. And so I thank them. Also, Ross and Abby do Swinford wedding videography and photography. So if you have wedding needs, you have someone that does, you'll be in great hands with these two. They're very professional. They'll do a great job, and you can trust them with that special moment. I want to thank my buddies at Adrenaline Fundraising, Jeff and Matt, who do a great job raising money for any organization, any level. They've got something made just for your program, just for your group, your club, and they'll help you raise a lot of money. I want to thank my buddy Tony Gooch at Marion Plumbing for residential and commercial needs. Not only a great guy professionally, but also personally. He's a wonderful guy, raised two great kids, great wife. Tony's a special guy, and he'll take care of you. I want to thank Bill Swinford and Swinford Media for when I approached him about this 3 years ago. He gave me a thumbs up and said, sounds great, and he's been so supportive, and I appreciate Bill and Swinford Media. My guest today is Mount Vernon head football coach Dan Mings. Dan and I go way back, and we competed against each other for a long time, and we've become good friends in the process as well. And I want to run through his bio, and then we're going to jump into a really good conversation. Dan has been coaching for 32 years, 23 as a head coach and 9 as an assistant. He's been a head football coach at 4 schools, Fairfield, Edwards County, Johnson City, and 2 stints at Mount Vernon. He has a total of 14 playoff appearances, 6 conference titles, and had an undefeated regular season and a quarterfinal finish. What was that year?
2005.
2005, okay. He has coached, he coached softball for 7 seasons, had won 2 conference titles, 4 regional titles, and a Sweet 16 appearance. He has served as a head track coach for both boys and girls. He's done that for over 8 seasons and had many years as an assistant track coach. Man, that's an awesome resume, and you got a lot of stuff on there, and welcome to Coaches.
Thank you. Been doing it a while.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. So let's start growing up. Here you are, this kid growing up in El Dorado. Tell me about what life was like in El Dorado.
Well, I actually grew up in the suburbs of El Dorado, so out in Raleigh.
I got you.
So, sort of a country kid. Just we lived about 12, 13 miles outside of town.
You were outside of town.
Yeah, we were outside town. So getting back and forth, I was a bus kid until I was, 16 and a half years old when I got my car. So
you learned a lot on that bus, didn't you?
Learned a lot on the ride. You learned a lot riding a bus, yeah. I can't even tell you how many bus rides I've had since I was 6 years old, through all the coaching and everything. It's just a lot of bus rides.
You've put a lot of miles on that yellow bus, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
You're out a country kid, so were you hunting and fishing and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's just how we were raised.
Yeah.
It was just sort of our way of life. And, I've got a room in my house with, my trophies in it, my fish and my deer and, all those other kind of things. But it was just what we did.
Yeah.
Our whole family was farmers. So sort of grew up on a tractor with animals and, all that kind of stuff. So sports was sort of a relief for me. It was a way to get away from, working every single day.
Did you think that was going to be your life? Were you thinking about farming as a profession someday, or was that like
No. I knew that I was going to do sports from a really young age.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in front of the TV, watching football games with my family on Sunday afternoons and Saturdays, and I remember Earl Campbell getting his jersey ripped off, and I remember, watching, Herschel Walker and those guys when they were young going, and it was like, I just want to be a part of that. That I was just drawn to it,
yeah.
And couldn't get away from it.
Yeah. You have siblings?
Yeah. I have 2 brothers and a sister. I have an older brother, a younger brother, and then my little sister.
I got you.
Who just turned 50.
Bless her heart, man, growing up in that house.
It was too. Yeah, so she was a sweet one.
You guys get along? Everybody got along?
Yeah.
Did your brothers play sports?
My older brother did not. He was the FFA. He was the farm kid. He loved that kind of stuff and still does to this day. My younger brother, we were completely opposite. I'm going to say he played the skill sports and I played the knuckle dragon sports. So he was a basketball and a baseball guy, where I was a football and a track guy. So,
interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Were your parents athletes or?
No, my dad played football in high school.
Yeah.
But other than that, You know, I mean, what didn't come from an athletic background or an athletic family.
Yeah.
It was just those, and my parents did a good job of offering youth sports to us.
Yeah.
And if we chose to keep going, then they went ahead and let us do that. You know, so I started out playing football when I was in third grade.
Yeah.
You know, and you look like Lord Dark Helmet, you know, the big old helmet on the little bitty body, and you know those types of things.
Bobblehead.
Yeah. So you know, I've been doing it since I was 8 years old, 7 to 8 years old.
Yeah.
So
when did you know? Did you know at an early age that you wanted to coach, or was there someone in your path that kind of lit that fire?
I always knew I wanted to play. Then I was surrounded by such great coaches that those became the people that you wanted to emulate.
Yeah.
So once I went to college and played, and I got to be about a junior year in college, and I blew out a shoulder and I separated my thumb a couple times. You know, it's like, okay, maybe I don't want to do this anymore, you know.
Yeah.
But they let me on like as a GA type situation.
Yeah.
And I got to learn the background of it, and I knew from then on that it's who I was going to be.
You said you wanted to stay in the game but not have all these injuries.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
something without pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, this has its share of pain. You know, but
Does it ever?
Yeah.
Different kind of pain.
Different kind.
Yeah. So you mentioned these coaches were influential. Like who were the coaches early in your life as you're coming through high school? Were there coaches there that you looked up to that you look back now and say they were maybe planting seeds in you for coaching?
Well, if we fast forward to high school, you know, I had some really good JFL coaches. Brandon Hampton's dad, Danny.
Oh, wow, yeah.
He was my one of my first coaches, and then Bob Hathaway was another one of our coaches, and they just made it so much fun, you know. But then I got to high school, and Joe Hossman was my freshman football coach.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And to this day, there's never been anybody like Joe Hossman,
Yeah.
you know, to coach freshmen, boys, you
Yeah.
know, and just treat them well, but turn them into men and,
Yeah.
and motivate and push and those types of things. And my sophomore year, Coach Woodward came to town,
Oh, yeah.
you know, so I go from Hossman straight to Coach Woodward
You had some good ones.
right there,
Yeah.
just right off the top, you know. I mean, they're both just extraordinary people. And, you know, then went to college, and Max Bowman, who was my college coach, and
The gold toothpick.
the golden toothpick.
Yeah, I remember him, man.
You know, so
Yeah.
and Max, you know, he'd been in the NFL, and Max
Yeah.
is still coaching.
Well, he did a great job of bringing that program to life at Greenville.
Yeah.
And brought in a lot of players and won almost immediately.
Well, at one time we were ranked second in the nation
Yeah.
in NAI at that time. You know, now they've gone to the NCCAA.
Yeah.
You know, but at that time he brought in a group of kids from El Paso with him.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was a loaded deal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But just learned a lot about what would shape me later, as far as the type of offensive person that I wanted to be.
I went to some clinics when he first arrived, and I think my high school coach, Coach Buddy at Salem, was in with him somehow, and boy, he gave some great clinic talks, and he was a guy that really sold the game, and I can imagine those players coming there wanting to play for him. He put Greenville football on the map,
Yeah,
man.
and his meetings were they were something.
Yeah.
I mean, he was definitely a Christian-oriented man.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, that did not mean not intense.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Well, I think that's a mistake people make about Christians, is they feel like they would lack intensity. But I've never found that to be, whether you're talking about Joe Hossman or Max or Tim Tebow or whoever. I mean, some of them are the most competitive
Right.
people you'll ever meet, and so you can get rid of that whole stereotype.
You know, and I remember, you know, we did an all-star game one time, you know, and we were under McAndrew Stadium, and
Yeah.
you know, I was giving a little pregame speech, and you know,
You did that well.
but you know, but you can be intense, and I think sometimes, you know, that's the guy that I'm known to be.
Yeah.
You know, not really the guy I am.
Yeah.
But that's the guy that you get a certain persona.
You do.
About you.
You do.
And that, you know, that rides with you a little bit.
It does.
I'm okay with it. But
We did a highlight video every year, and Coach Wembley did a great job putting it together. And I remember at the end of it, a lot of times the kids would do some parodies of the coaches. They would dress like us and act like us. And there was this window of time where every time I was parodied on there, it was a ranting and raving lunatic. And of course, we're showing this at the banquet. The parents are watching. I'm thinking, is this what they think of me? Because that's not who I am every day. But I think those moments they magnified into me getting mad at practice or in my office, and I'm like, wow, I had to look in the mirror a little bit.
Well, I do the same thing. You know, I tell kids that come into my office all the time, perception is tough because you're who people perceive you to be.
It's true.
So everybody sees you as a whatever your title is or whatever your job is, and not necessarily who you are. So it's all a game.
Yeah.
It's all a game.
Yeah. Well, and then so you played for Jim Woodward. Did you play for Jim all through high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He came in when I was a sophomore, and he was there for the 3 years that we were there. So, and we made the playoffs all 4 years that we were in high school. I was fortunate enough and good enough, I guess, that they brought me up as a freshman at the end of the year.
Yeah.
To get beat up. I played nose guard against their center. Just I guess who they were going to play in the playoffs, and so I was fortunate enough to be all 4 years in the playoffs. Situation in high school, and growing up, we didn't lose a game until we were 6 weeks into our sophomore season.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So we didn't even know how to not win.
Yeah.
So it was just a great atmosphere. Growing
cool.
up, but those coaches set the table, I guess, for who I was going to want to be.
And then the college thing, you got recruited.
Yeah.
And you chose to play
At Greenville.
Mm-hmm. And so you played 4 years, but you got hurt at what year?
My junior year. Yeah, I had to have shoulder surgery and had to have my thumbs put back into place because they dislocated my thumbs in a football game. And
what position did you play?
I played nose guard.
Oh man, you were down in the trenches, brother.
Yeah, because at that time I was as broad as I was tall.
Yeah.
5'10", about 315 pounds. So,
were you really?
Yeah. So
you were that big?
I was that big in college. Oh. But that was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of success doing it. But probably my biggest achievement in college was I started to throw the hammer.
Oh.
And I got up to be 8th in the nation in the hammer.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Well, and it's something that you don't see in high school in Illinois, so it was completely foreign to me until I got into college. So
isn't that weird though? Like you would have never known you were good at that. And all of a sudden you're in the top 10 in the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
At 5'10". Usually you have to have a little bit of length and those types of
things.
Oh,
I don't know a thing about it, so being taller is better.
Yeah,
I've just watched it.
Length and levers.
I'm terrified when they cut loose that thing, man, as I'm telling you.
Well, I put it through a chain link fence. It just blew a hole in a chain link fence one time. That's how.
Yeah.
It's like a little cannonball, I guess, on the end of a rope.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun to learn, and college was a blast, and made a lot of lifelong friends. Guys that are coaching football throughout the state. It was like we all just sort of went out and became head football coaches.
Really?
Like Scott Horner at Columbia, he was our quarterback.
I didn't know that.
Coach Duff at Hillsboro.
Yeah.
He was an All-American lineman. Coach Spooner up at Clifton Central. And there was like 6 of us that went on to become head football coaches.
That is really cool.
Yeah, so it's been a pretty good networking situation over the years.
Yeah.
Just knowing those guys and be able to talk to them and communicate with them. And
that's why we do this. I've known you a long time, and I did not know that you were connected to all those head coaches.
Yeah.
That's really great. You leave college. Did you finish your degree at Greenville?
I did.
And then now you're ready to go get a job.
Yeah.
And you
did my student teaching at Mount Vernon.
Okay.
So at that time, just got married out of college. Did my student teaching at Mount Vernon. Was there from 93 through the end of 95.
Okay.
Once I got done with my student teaching, then they put me part-time as dean of students and part-time driver's ed. And
so I didn't know you worked at Mount Vernon in that early phase.
This is the 3rd time that I've been back to Mount
Vernon.
I
did not. I thought it was just twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the 3rd time, and there's something about that place. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit.
Pull you back
in. But there is. No matter how many times I try to get away, they bring me back in. So
did you were assistant coach during that time?
Yeah. Yeah, the coach that I coached under when I first got there was Butch Curris.
I remember Butch Curris.
Okay, so Butch was there, and I left, after 3 years because I wanted more. And at the time it felt like Butch was not going to go anywhere. There were other guys on the staff that it looked like they were probably going to be moving up.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to be that guy yet. So I left because I wanted more, you know?
Yeah. Do you remember David Mills?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Doc.
Yeah, Doc Mills.
Yeah.
We're good friends.
Okay.
I know him because he's from Flora.
Okay.
And when I got to Flora, he had just left, but we became friends. He actually student taught for me at Carterville, so I know he was on that staff.
Exactly.
And that's most of what I remember about the Butch Curris era was because Doc was there at that time. So yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about Butch, and I didn't understand it because I was young and dumb and very aggressive, and Butch was a little bit ahead of his time.
Okay.
Because, you know, I remember, and it was so foreign to me, I said, Coach, just tell me what your philosophy is. I said, I just want to know what to do. He goes, we're going to pass and set up the run. And it was a shocking thing to me that back in the early 90s, that was not something that was normal or accepted.
not in the 90s. It was not.
Not in the early 90s.
Early 90s especially.
So
yeah.
it was really hard for me to understand the concepts that he was trying to teach. And, you know, he had a quarterback there, Chad Hammonds, that threw for, 2,000 yards. And it was great, but nobody understood what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
So the support that he didn't get because of what people didn't know, really, I think, changed maybe his trajectory at Mount Vernon.
Where did he come from?
Texas.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I thought he was a Texas guy.
Yeah, he came from Texas.
So he brought what was probably catching fire there, brought it here, and people said, "You got to run the football."
Yeah, 100%. And I was that guy.
Yeah.
And like I say, I was young.
Yeah.
I'm 24 years old, 23, 24 years old, and I'm thinking, I don't want to coach for this guy. I don't understand him. I don't believe him. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And now looking back, all these years later, it's like, maybe Butch had something there.
Maybe he did. That's interesting. Yeah. So how long were you there? You said till 3 years?
93, 94, 95.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now it's time to spread your wings and fly.
Spread my wings. So what I did as a young coach, I was living in Mount Vernon, so I just stuck a pin in a map and drew a circle 60 miles around Mount Vernon, and I applied at every football school in that 60 miles, every one of them, and I somehow ended up over in Edwards County.
Okay.
And I walked in, they had a position that was open. I told them I was interested. By the time I got home, my phone was ringing. Said, okay, we're going to interview you on Monday. So this was like maybe a Friday I took off school.
Right.
At that time, no computers really, so I'm taking my resume and I'm taking everything and delivering everything by hand and meeting people and shaking hands and talking to everybody at every school that would let me in the door.
Yeah.
And then I was hired that Monday.
Bill Kinsey, the coach?
Bill Kinsey was on staff at that point.
Okay.
Bill Drage was actually the head coach
Oh,
at that time.
okay. Yeah.
Bill was leaving.
I got
so
you.
it opened up a position that I was fortunate enough to step into. But I coached with Coach Kinsey.
Yeah. When I was at Flora, we played Edwards County. I think all 3 years, matter of fact.
Yeah.
And John Hart had been there.
Correct.
I think the first year I played John Hart. I think it was John Hart. Or maybe John had just left. I can't remember. But they were still, when I first got to Flora, they were still pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long were you there?
I left there after the 2000 season.
Okay.
So after there, I went to Fairfield for 10 months, and it was a pretty rough go.
Yeah.
Fairfield was a pretty rough go because they were in a transition. Coach Hatfield had left.
Yeah.
Rick Book didn't want to do it. He wanted to coach track, but they just wanted a football guy to come in. So I got hired there, and it was a pretty rough 10 months, and it had nothing to do with the community or the support or the kids or anything else. But at that time, we were still in NEC.
Yeah.
So you're playing Mount Carmel, which put a little bit of fear in everybody's head to begin the season.
Yeah.
And then I got a call. Coach Pancoast was wanting to get back out because his second stint as a head coach at Mount Vernon, he wanted to get back out. So I applied at Mount Vernon, and of course I had already had my base built there.
Yes.
So I applied at Mount Vernon, and let's put it this way, I wasn't the first choice. The first choice is sitting across the table from me.
Really?
Yeah, that was the guy. I mean, you were the guy that they wanted to bring in.
Yeah.
And at that time, you were transitioning to what you wanted to do next.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough that it popped up for me, and I took it. And, I've sort of been at Mount Vernon ever since, but, with a couple different stops.
I remember going to around that period, I went to a Mount Vernon basketball game with my brother and sister-in-law, and I think people made this assumption. It not because I had family there, but because I was looking into the Mount Vernon job.
Right.
But yeah, I never took the position like this is something I want to do. Yeah, but I know that rumor was probably out there, and maybe doing something like that kind of fed that a little bit. Yeah. So let's talk about Mount Vernon. And I know the great thing about Dan Mings is, and I've talked to a lot of media people, they love to interview you because whether it's radio, newspaper, whatever, as they said, he doesn't just do coach speak, thank God. Because coach speak, I talked to Darren Kennard last week, it'll drop this week, but there's reason coaches do coach speak.
There is.
But at the same time, it does not make for good copy.
No, and a lot of it is self-preservation.
It is. It is. And I understand, especially in this day and age we live in now,
Sure.
But you've always been refreshing in the fact that you speak from your heart and you tell it like it is. And so I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
you won't be.
But I know people know Mount Vernon has, like any larger school, has challenges. And so when you stepped into Mount Vernon, what did you sense? Because you've been there before, but you've also been at Edwards County and Fairfield, and now you're back at Mount Vernon as the head guy.
As the head guy.
Yeah.
And they had just gone on a 10-year slide of not making the playoffs, not having a winning record. So whenever I got to come back in, Mount Vernon is a hierarchy, and it's an athletic hierarchy. And football is not at the top of that hierarchy by any stretch of the imagination. It's probably third or the fourth priority that Mount Vernon has, just being honest. And it's still the same way. So every day became a recruiting day. Every day became not a physical, but an emotional fight to get kids interested in the sport and try to get kids that you see in other sports involved in your sport. And it was tough go.
Yeah.
It was a tough go. And one of the biggest wins, just because it sort of affects you in a way, your nephew Derek.
Yeah.
So Derek was the point guard for the basketball team, and he was a starter. And he made a choice as a junior that he didn't want to play basketball, he wanted to play football. And that really caused a lot of issues. I mean, not for me, but just school-wide, it caused a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Now, the benefit to that is he was such a great athlete and leader that he took our football program and he got us back into the playoffs. So my third year back, we were in the playoffs, and it was because he made a dedication to the sport. Yeah. It was one of the top Mount Vernon athletes that made a risky choice. Yeah. And when he made that risky choice, it allowed others to come with him. Yeah. Not as an only sport, but as an also sport.
I got you.
And once they became an also football player, then we started to become successful. Yeah. It's the Jimmies and Joes have a lot to do with your success.
Yeah. When you and I have been in a lot of different places. I've been at 4. You've been, I think, at 4, and we know the process. You've got when you're faced with a turnaround, there are things you can do, but there's no doubt you need a group of kids that are going to buy in. In some places I've been, they bought in year 1. Some places I've been, it took time.
2 years.
It took to the 4th year before we started winning at Marion. But that class finally came. Don't get me wrong. It's not against the kids that were here. Many of them were great. I just didn't have enough of them.
Right.
And then I got a class that was a little bit different. And you mentioned Derek. I had a kid from Texas move in. He was going to be a senior. His name was TJ Hargrove. And when TJ moved in, played defensive back and wide receiver, but he brought a swagger that that young class needed. And you're right. Sometimes one guy
can change a lot.
Change it. And I, to this day, believe that team might have been a playoff team, but TJ brought something different. TJ made us a little fearless. He didn't care about. We went to SIU camp. Yeah. We had always been a little bit intimidated there. But TJ was like, no, we're not. And the other kids go, oh, I guess we're not.
Yeah, we don't. You're saying we don't have to be?
You don't have to be, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know what you mean. I mean, I think there's that guy, that class, and then things start to snowball, and it did for you with
Then things get better,
Yeah.
And then, we always had a lot of involvement in our junior football league. A lot of kids would play then, but then just didn't translate into, playing in high school. But that group that started with Derek and until when I left, they played together in every sport.
Yeah.
Whether it was football or basketball or baseball or track or whatever it is, they were always together. And when you get that family unity, again, coach speak, hey, it's a brotherhood, but it is.
It is.
When you can find a group of kids that treat each other more like brothers than acquaintances, then you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
And we went through a really long run there. Out of the 10 years, I think we made the playoffs 6 times out of 10 years. And the first 2, we were bad.
Yeah.
We were bad. So, I just think that helped set the tone and sort of change what we did there and allowed me to have a little bit of success with coaching.
Yeah, and I think also then, as we both figured out, then you start getting that label of credibility that you need, where the players are buying into what you're saying because you've got now a resume of success, and now things can start to roll. But I've always felt that one of your great strong suits is recruiting. I mean,
Yes.
when you first got the job there and you started winning, I remember talking, I would tell you who it was, I can't remember, but I talked to someone from Mount Vernon and I said about the job you were doing, turning things around, and he goes, man, he's a kid magnet. He goes, he can get kids out of the hallway to play and to at least try football.
Right.
But you said that was an everyday thing.
Every single day, and I still do it every single day. This morning, I just had another 2 kids that I brought in and talked to and, just said, hey, this may be something you want to look at. Have your family give me a call. It's something that we'll talk to. We'll bring you along. We'll try to help you out, and excuse me. So I do that all the time.
I hope, because I've decided that this has become a master class, talking to these coaches from all the different sports. And coaches have different philosophies and ways, but there's a lot of common threads. And I like to leave nuggets for a young coach who's tuning in. A lot of young coaches text me and tell me they are listening. So when you're recruiting a kid, not the whole thing, but give me something you say to get a kid to take that, to nibble on that hook and take that bait and say, hey, you get a kid, what do you say to him?
Well, it depends on the kid and the situation. But I think as a coach, as a leader, my job, and I'm going to sidebar here a little bit, my job, I'm not the most organized person in the world. I'm a motivator, I'm a nurturer, I'm a caregiver, I'm that guy. My coaches do the coaching, to be honest with you. I love on the kids, I take care of the kids, I go pick the kids up. But my job is to give you what you need.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, for instance, Derek, Ryan, I called those kids my silver spoons.
Yeah.
These are kids that grew up in a 2-parent home. They have the car that they want to drive. They are well educated. They know what's going on. They don't need me to be that guy.
Yeah.
They need me to be this guy.
Yeah.
And then you have your other kids who are a lot of our Southtown kids, a lot of our poorer country kids. They need me to be this guy.
I got you.
You have to wear different hats.
Absolutely.
And your job is to fulfill the needs of each kid that comes in.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do, I find out what that kid needs.
Yeah.
What's keeping you from doing this?
Yeah.
What's the hang up? What's the hold
Yeah.
up? Well, my mom don't want me. Are you sure your mom doesn't want you to play? Hey, here's my number. Have mom give me a call. Let me talk to mom a little bit. And again, I'm brutal, and I know I rub people the wrong way. And I'm okay with that because that's just who I am. But there's not a mom alive that doesn't want her son to grow up to be a strong man. Not one.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, whether football's that avenue or something else is that avenue, there's not one mom alive that doesn't want her son to turn into a big, strong, productive human being.
Yeah.
So when I have those conversations with mom, I have those conversations with mom.
Yeah. And I love that story, and I love the fact that you you vary what this kid needs to hear, what we can offer him. But how many of those apprehensive moms turn into these football moms? I mean, it happens, right? It happens. And I've had them say, oh, I don't want him to play. Next thing I know, they're up in the stands. They're giving the other team heck, and they're all in. So.
Well, and it's a jump-off point because they do want that for their sons. I mean, there is no question. They want that for their sons.
But don't you think they see the change in their sons, too?
Yes.
If the football experience is good, they get stronger, they get mentally tougher, they get a little more responsible. They get more accountable. I hope that what we're teaching is transferring to the home. That's our hope. I think it does, but not every case, but I think a lot of times it does. I think parents see that and they see the value. It wasn't just about him scoring some touchdowns for us. It was a whole bigger picture than that.
And I think we're a conduit sometimes of we help.
Yes.
You know? So if a mom texts me, I'll say, thank you for texting me, but why are you texting me?
Yeah.
Why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
No, you have Johnny text me. You have Johnny tell me. You have Johnny come and see me.
That's right.
And then after you do that, then me and you can have a conversation. But right now we're going to teach him accountability and responsibility. And when you teach accountability and responsibility, then they see that at home and they say, oh, this is something that maybe I didn't force enough on my kid, but we do. I mean, you've known me. I mean, there's times where I'm a very abrasive person, but I'm always going to be honest with what I'm thinking and what I'm going to say to you, because it doesn't do me any good to not tell you the truth or not let you know where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know, because that's just sort of how I was raised into it.
Well, if you're not honest and straightforward and authentic, you'll have to come back at some point, and you'll have to answer to that when you tell them things maybe that you didn't want to tell them. I want to talk a little bit about what's the best part of coaching at Mount Vernon?
Mount Vernon's a tough place to coach. I mean, it's a tough place to coach. Coaching in general is tough, but you don't know if you've done a good job until 5 or 10 years later.
Yeah.
You know, the wins and losses, and I have said this since the very first day of my coaching, wins and losses happen. They're going to happen, because if I had a choice, I would have beat you every time. They happen.
Yeah.
It's what you do, what you do next. It's the relationships that you build. It's seeing a kid that will find something to fight for, whether it's you or whether it's the team or whether it's the town or, you know, whatever it is. It's the 5 and 10 years later when they text you or they call you and, hey coach, I just had a baby, or hey, I'm going to get married here, or hey, I just got my job of my dreams.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's everything.
Yeah, I had this conversation many times over the years that we oftentimes judge a school on how well the school tests on these testing things.
Yeah.
And the conversation needs to be, let's track these kids and see where they're at 10 years from now, because the test, maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't. But what I want to know is, did they become productive members of society? Are they out there working? I don't care if it's blue collar, I don't care if it's military, I don't care if it's white collar. But are they leaving our school, and are we setting them up for success in life? The test scores, that's how we evaluate. This is the best school, second. And maybe those
true.
And maybe those same schools are launching them into life better. But I think there's a lot of other ways to measure a kid. Some of these little country schools that don't score that well compared to a school that offers more, but they might be producing great citizens in their own way.
Well, you know, those places, these kids have different responsibilities. Their lives are not academic first lives. They're survival lives. They're what do I got to do to make it to the next day?
Yeah.
And they learn to fight, you know, which my whole life is, I'm going to fight you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just in whatever way that is, because I was that kid. I was that poor country kid that didn't have the same stuff that the town kids had, and you know, maybe didn't have the same clothes and didn't have the same experiences that those kids had. So I know what it's sort of like, you know, to be looked at different and say, you know what, and I talk with my kids all the time about breaking the chains.
Yeah.
You know, you got to break whatever that chain is that holds you down. You have to break that chain because you can't tell me who I'm going to be. Only I can tell me who I'm going to be, you know? And so back to coaching Mount Vernon, I think it's not for everybody. I don't know that anybody could come and coach at Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
You know, because my first time there, and I went to every Southtown church. I went to every church north of the tracks. I would sit on the porches and talk to the grandmas that are raising these kids. I would, and to this day, I have no fear. You know, in Mount Vernon, there's a certain section of town there that you know, a lot of people don't go in. Yeah. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
You know, I walk down the middle of the street and people will come out and we'll talk and, you know, but I think that you've got to make yourself accessible. You've got to be honest and you've got to be true because they don't put up with the other.
Yeah.
They just don't. They will revolt so fast if they think that you're not being somebody that true to yourself or true to their kids. Yeah. They will revolt pretty fast.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Mount Vernon goes sort of in cycles.
I see.
You know, because if they get the people in there that can do it, you know, and that are not afraid to be themselves, and I think they're going to be successful. But if you get somebody in there that's not real sure of themselves, Mount Vernon will chew you up.
Yeah, that's it. I appreciate the honesty on that. Great answer. And I do want to focus a little bit now. When we talk about Derek and Ryan, for the viewers to know, those are my nephews that played for you at Mount Vernon. And you had a great quarterfinal season in 2005. Quickly, what do you remember most about that team?
Man, they were good.
They were good.
They were good.
Yeah.
I mean, and it didn't matter. You would throw a concept and they would pick it up like they had done it their entire lives.
Yeah.
Because that summer going in, the group before them was supposed to be the good group. You know, the 2014 was supposed to be the good group. And we were loaded. And we fell flat on our faces. So that off season, we changed everything. We brought in a completely new offense, a completely new defense that the coaches had to learn. So we were learning it, then we were turning around and teaching it to the kids. And they were so fast at grabbing the concepts that it was just sort of undescribable. But like week one, we played Belleville East. No South 7 school had ever beaten a Metro team. We knew that we were pretty good. We felt like we were pretty good. We had a lot of talent, had a great quarterback, but we shut them out 29-0, and our defense just abused them. Yeah. Like they were getting the play calls.
Yeah, a school that's got 2,000 plus kids.
Yeah, almost 3,000 now. But and it was not close.
Wow.
It was an abusive situation.
And you said, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's like, well, we were looking around and going, okay, but what's going on? Yeah. You know, and then the next week, then the next week, then the next week, and we stayed healthy, relatively healthy. Yeah. And we had speed. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's the one thing. Speed kills. Yeah. And probably to this day, the best athlete that I've ever got to coach was Brian Deaton. And he was our quarterback. He played linebacker for us. But then I had Ryan and Trent playing linebacker for us.
And the blocking backs.
And they were our, you know, because we ran that double fullback system. Yeah. They were our blocking backs. And, you know, Terrell Cooks that ran a 4-4, a low 4-4, was back there at tailback. And it's like, you know, and our line was enormous, you know, for the time. Yeah. When we look back on that and still finding the VHS tapes and, you know, hopefully it doesn't, you know, my old VCR doesn't eat it, you know, and you know, watch those things a little bit. But that, you know, for the path that I chose and the places that I've chose to go to other than Johnson City have never been football schools. Yeah. Never. Football was a secondary thought. It was a secondary thing. And I sort of took that as a challenge. And it didn't matter if I was going to Edwards County. People said, you can't go there and win. Yeah, I can. Yeah. They said, you know, at Mount Vernon, we hadn't been in the playoffs for 10 years. And, hey, you don't want that job. You can't win there. Yes, I can. You know, hey, and this time coming back, you know, Coach, is the worst program that you've ever seen for 10-year time period.
Yeah.
You can't do it again. Something's changing. No, I can.
And that just made you say, okay.
Well, it's sort of my whole life. People have been saying you can't do this.
Yeah.
Either you're not smart enough or whatever. You can't get it done. And I take that as a personal challenge to me to say, you know what? Yeah, I can. Now does that mean I'm going to have to work longer and harder? Yeah, because maybe I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and I'm okay with that. But you're not going to outwork me. You're not going to process me. We may not have the talent, but we're going to keep working, and it doesn't matter. We're going to win.
Yeah.
And if we don't win, we're going to become respectable.
The reputation, of course, is the physicality your teams always play with. That's right. Always been the thing when people think about Mount Vernon football. Dan Mings, Mount Vernon football. I think, Dan, it's the physicality of it. That team was not only, as you mentioned, fast. They were very big. They were very physical. They would beat you down and beat you into submission. But then, like you said, they were smart. And when you put those elements together, and they loved each other. So I just gave you probably the five major tools, and I've had those classes. And when you put those things together, look out.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you've got the intangible things, of course, they got the work ethic and the accountability, and they care about pleasing the coach, that the coach pleasing them, and man, that goes a long way. It was a great season. Congratulations on that, because I did get to watch them play, obviously, so up close and personal. And coaching staff. I mean, I think another thing about you at Mount Vernon, people have always had a really high level of respect for the staff that you put together there in your two main stops there. Thoughts on putting that together and those guys being in your life during those periods?
Well, they were Coach Pancoast guys. They were all brought up under the disciplined approach of Coach Pancoast. And they will say today, at 7:22, we're doing this. And at 7:23, if you're not there, we're shutting the door.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
I do.
So they grew up under that sort of tight-fisted regime, and they knew what it was like to be in meetings for 9 hours on a Sunday evening and not get home, and then be back at meetings at 7:30 in the morning on Monday to go over what they went over Sunday. And like I say, I'm not the sharpest guy, but when I got there, I was the youngest guy. So when I became the head coach at Mount Vernon, I was just to turn 28 years old. These guys were all 5, 6, 7 years older than I was. Yeah. So they sort of saw my passion and saw my belief in my direction, and they made that happen. So the people that you surround yourself, and I've had some very disloyal assistants, but when you get a group of folks that are loyal to not just you, but what you believe in, what you think, how you do things, and they become your family. And again, coach speak about, family and this and brotherhood, but it's so true, But when Coach Fields and Coach McCoy and Coach Goodhart and myself, and there's been so many others over the years, but that core group right there, yeah. We just learned to do it together.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what I do, but I know what they do. They get us ready week in, week out.
Yeah.
And they love Mount Vernon. They love it. I mean, it's not, and it's nothing real personal toward anybody else because I'm not from there. But the way that they think is different. They don't like you. It's nothing personal. They don't like you. Centralia, they don't like you. Althoff, they don't like you. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
They don't like you.
Yeah.
So they're going to do everything in their power. I'm not really like that necessarily.
Yeah.
Because I've never felt like that. But it's them against the world.
Yeah.
And they're going to do whatever they can. And we just got back from another coaches clinic, like our 30th coaches clinic together or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're still doing the same things we did, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
We're still talking and discussing, and getting kids in the right spots for us, and laughing, and just enjoying each other's company.
That's
so
great.
It's that staff, the people that I've been fortunate enough to coach with that have taken care of me over the years has just been phenomenal.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. It's interesting how important that staff cohesion is, as well as team cohesion. But I think about being 20-something years old and going to Flora, and every assistant was, some of them were 10, 15 years older than this kid.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate it then the way I do now. The way they followed me, listened to me, respected me. I had 1 year of experience as a head coach at Sparta when I took the Flora job. And I think, would I give a 27-year-old kid that kind of respect? And they did. And it allowed us to be good immediately. Not because I was a genius, but because I tapped into these old veteran guys. They had different gifts, different talents, but they just did everything I asked. No matter, they didn't question whether does he really know what he's doing at 27?
No.
And some things I didn't.
Correct.
But I knew some things not to do, some things I had learned. I had a great high school coaches. And so I think I love this story you're telling, that they embraced you and trusted you, and they didn't have to. And sometimes it will be hard to do that. And I've had that same experience, and I'm so appreciative of it now. And you're still with your guys.
I'm still with them after all these years.
I'll never forget when Ryan Gadisky joined us here as our athletic director. For us, that was a big change. We had the same guy for many, many years, and then he got sick, and he still, when he got here, he was still really proud of his time at Mount Vernon, his time with you, and what he learned. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how much he's talked about that experience and what Mount Vernon meant to him in his life. And I think he felt it set him up for success here.
And I hope so, because when he first came in, he did a student teaching there. A guy from Ziegler.
Yeah.
And he was a pretty good high school athlete, but he wanted to be involved. So I found him, I brought him on. But at Mount Vernon, the old practice field, there was a building there with a dock.
I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that loading dock, I still remember the conversations. We would just go sit on that dock, and we would talk about life.
Yeah.
We would talk about setting your family up for your financial future. We would talk about what it's like to have kids. We would talk about all these other things. And once Ryan became vocal, because he absorbed a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know, borderline genius, borderline insane, but when we get together and we talk and just talk about life and just talk about stuff.
Yeah.
And then when he started to open up and he started to become a complete coach, to understand that it's not really the X's and O's, they matter, but it's the other stuff, and it's how to be at that time, a little skinny, 24-year-old guy, coming in, and the conversations that we had, and the love that I have for that guy, and being at his wedding, and he's just an amazing guy. And he called me, and he goes, Coach, I'm going to apply for the athletic director position at Marion. He goes, I know I don't have a shot. He goes, but I need the experience.
Yeah.
And I said, why do you not have a shot? Why do you not have a shot?
Yeah.
And, so we talked right before the interview. And he went in, he had the interview. He called me right back when the interview was over. He goes, that went pretty well.
Yeah.
He goes,
I heard he had a really good interview.
And he's the kind of Marion guy. And there is a type. I'm a Mount Vernon type. I just am. You're a Marion type. Ryan is a Marion type. He just fits in so well in his professionalism and his leadership and his genuine caring for every single person he comes across.
Yeah.
I think that whether he does this for the next 20 years or he does it for the next 5 years or however long he's going to do the job, it's going to be really tough to find a better one, in my opinion.
I agree, and I think not only does he do that with every person, but he does that with every sport.
Yes.
Every sport feels valued.
Yep.
And sometimes as AD, I've been AD, you can get caught up in the major sports, as they call them. I hate that term.
Me too.
Because in some way that seems derogatory to the kid that plays in a so-called minor sport. But his experience is just as important as the quarterback on the football team. And sometimes you can get lost in all the attention the big sports, so-called big sports, get. But got to move on. Travel. Travel became a problem for both of us as we got better, kind of together. We both faced a dilemma of travel, and I mean, I know we could share war stories, but that was a big challenge. I don't know where I want this to go, but just to say, I feel your pain because I lived through it.
We're fortunate and unfortunate in this point. We're the big fish in a smaller pond.
Yes.
Your population, our population of schools around this area where there's a lot of small schools.
Yes.
So we can't play, and we know that.
Yeah.
We know that. You know, we shouldn't be playing certain schools because we have 1,200 kids and they have 400 kids.
Yeah, right.
You don't do that to people.
That's right.
But on the other hand, now we're 1,200 playing 2,500. You know, we're 1,200 playing teams that are ranked in the country.
Yeah.
You know, we're traveling. You know, we've been to Ohio twice.
Yeah.
We've been to Chicago 10 times.
Yeah.
You know, we've had to go to the Peoria area and Springfield area just to get games.
Yeah.
And it's hard on us.
It is.
On the other part of that is, I sort of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Because I remember what it was like to get everything packed and get on the charter bus and go eat at the buffet and how you prepared in college and all these other kind of things. I remember that. So some of the experiences that we're able to give our kids are things that other smaller schools don't have the opportunity to do.
It's true.
You know, but is it going to continually be a struggle? I would imagine that it is.
Yeah,
You know,
I think
even
so.
with the changes that they made, it still comes to the fact. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing whatsoever, but we're open week 5. Carterville's open week 5. Carterville doesn't want to play Mount Vernon. I don't blame Carterville for not wanting to play Mount Vernon. They have 600 and something kids. We have 1,200 kids.
Yeah.
And like you said before, good, bad, or whatever, we are physical.
Yeah.
You may beat us, but you're going to walk out with a limp.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. And small schools can't afford to get beat up and banged up when they have a certain limited number of kids.
Sure. Oh, I get it.
You know,
and
so
it is what it is. I think we both had to live through that. We went to Tennessee and went all the way up to Galesburg, and we've been all over and Peoria area, Springfield area, but it was what it was. There were some great memories of some of those trips and successes we had, but over time, it just got to where you're scratching your head and your kids are saying, who are we playing again?
Yeah.
Where's this school at? And it becomes different than that made me miss the local matchup.
Correct.
You know what I mean? That's what I missed. That those teams that the kids kids on that team, and we're going up to play, we're going to play somebody like Galesburg. Our kids don't even know where it's at on the map.
No.
We stop at a rest stop. There's a giant map of Illinois, and we're showing them where we're going.
Yes.
And we're pointing to the top of the map, and they're like, "We got a long way to go, Coach." Yeah. Your decision to leave the first time. I'll have to put this on a little quicker, but I love it though. I love it. So your decision to leave the first time. Burnout? Were you just looking for a change?
Mad. Just mad. It's after 10 years of fighting every single day.
Yeah.
I was either gonna go or I had to get away.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just it just is what it is, you know,
Yeah.
as far as that goes. And it was just time that I need to breathe a little bit and try to find a place where football was important.
Yeah.
You know, and I definitely did.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely did.
So the Johnson City experience was a good experience.
It was an amazing experience.
Yes.
You know, I mean, and people don't understand Johnson City, I don't think. But when you go through and you look at all of the Division I athletes that come out of a town of 2,300 people,
Yeah.
it is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Whether it's softball, you know, I had 4 in football. After I left, AB becomes a big-time Division I football player. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. the community rallies so hard around their sports teams. It's just a tremendous place to be. And it was an experience that I'm glad that I got to do, you know.
Yeah.
But with small towns comes small town politics.
Yeah.
And that is a little bit, that comes with it too, you know. The expectations, I think, were met,
Yeah.
you know, and the success was met to an extent, but just it just is, you know.
What did it feel like being back at a small school?
Different,
Yeah.
you know, because it is slower. It's slower.
Yeah.
You know, like at Mount Vernon, I'll do 3 different lunch period supervisions with 320 kids to 370 kids in a lunch period. At Johnson City, that's the entire school.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, and you get to know each other more on an intimate basis, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, you
Yeah.
you are familiar.
One of the biggest challenges to coming to Marion was at Carterville, I knew every kid.
Every kid.
Every kid had to take senior government, so I knew every kid. I came to Marion, I went at graduation, my first couple of years. I don't know half the kids going through, I don't know who they are. And it was a weird feeling, and I missed
Yes.
that. I've gotten used to it, but over time I found ways to interact and see more kids and know more kids. But those first couple of years, it was a little culture shock for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll see kids coming in the door every day still.
Yeah.
Is this a new kid? No. Hey, I've been here for 3 years, Coach. Hey, all right, sorry.
You ask me this every day, Coach.
Yeah, sorry.
You decide to come back to Mount Vernon after you're at Massac for a little while as an assistant, right?
Yes.
And you're at Johnson City for how many years?
7. 7.5, and then I got out of teaching.
Yes.
I went to work at the prison.
Yes.
As a teacher.
Yeah.
But not as a
Public school,
as a
yeah.
public school teacher. So I went and I worked at the prison for 2 years, and in those 2 years, I was an assistant for Coach Carnes at Heron,
Okay.
and then Coach Roper at Massac County, because I couldn't get away from it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you leave something that you do, there's a hole. You know, and
Yeah.
so you're always trying to fill that hole a little bit.
How did you feel as an assistant coach? Was it hard?
No.
No.
Oh my gosh. No. No. You prepared, you showed up for work, you taught the kids, you went home. You know, you didn't have all that.
Yeah.
All the other phone calls and,
Yeah.
the booster club meetings and the parents and going and speaking at different engagements.
So you didn't miss all that?
No, being an assistant coach is a wonderful life.
I got it.
You know, it's a wonderful life.
That's awesome. I put on here advice to young coaches about longevity. I worry about longevity in coaching today. We're seeing it less and less. Guys like you and I that make it 30 plus years. What would be your advice for a young coach? How are they going to stay in it for the long haul? Is there any way that we can get these coaches to stick around, or is it just becoming more of a challenge, not worth what the pay is? What do you think?
Well, you definitely don't get paid.
Yeah.
You don't get paid for what you do. You know, and
We never really have.
No, and coaching is it's a profession, but it's also a vocation.
Yeah.
It's a calling.
Amen.
You know, and if you're not prepared to deal with, you know, and not turning it to the religious part, but if you're not willing to deal with the calling, you know, whatever that is, if you're not willing to say, okay, sometimes you're going to be persecuted, sometimes you're going to have to fight your way through it, sometimes you're just going to have raw faith and belief, sometimes it's tough.
It is.
It's tough.
Yep.
And sometimes if you're not surrounded, and I was very fortunate for so many years that the people in my life knew who I was.
Yeah.
They knew what came with that.
Yeah.
If the other people in your life do not understand the time commitment that it takes,
Yeah.
and the pressure that you're under, and a lot of that's maybe self-imposed pressure, but it's still pressure
It
that
is.
you're
It's
under.
still there, though. Yeah.
You know, if they don't understand that and the support system's not there for you,
Yeah.
you are not going to make it.
Yeah.
Because it's always easy to say, I'll go get a part-time job at Lowe's and make that kind of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure you will.
Yeah.
You absolutely will. Hey, I'll get a paper route and ride my bike and make that much money. Yes, you absolutely will.
Yeah.
So I think that when old coaches are preparing new coaches, we need to be honest with them and let them be involved in the process and let their families be involved in the process. You know, so like the transition that you had to JD, or that I'm going to have to hopefully one of the next coaches we've got on staff, I let them in the meetings.
Yeah.
You know, hey, adrenaline's coming in. We're going to do a fundraising meeting.
Yeah.
You need to be here to see what that's like, because
Right.
if I throw all this stuff at you when I walk away and you don't know any of it,
Yeah. Shame on you.
it's unbearable.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I think our job as the guys that are leaving is to help the guys that are coming in understand.
Amen.
And the families.
Yeah.
Because, you know, your incredible wife, she had to do that for years, you know.
Yes,
Stephanie
right.
had to do that for years.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things that
There's a toll.
there's a toll, and if you're not willing to understand what that vocation is, you're probably not going to make it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
I appreciate that. We're going to talk about a couple of things before we close here. I know you've been involved in track and softball. Congratulations on that, because I've been down those paths, and I always found it to be a really cool change.
Yeah.
When I coached girls track and girls softball, it was a pleasant surprise to me, just the difference. It wasn't that it was better or worse, it was just different. And the different I really thought was pretty dang cool. The girls were a lot of fun to coach. I've always really enjoyed girls in the classroom. But I didn't know if I would love coaching them. And to my surprise, I really did. And I know you did that for many years. But any thoughts on coaching girls sports for you?
Well, my first head coaching job was softball. You know, Coach Rennie was getting out at Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
And I was doing my student teaching there. And she goes, why don't you be the head softball coach? I said, okay. You know, and you got to realize, you know, I'm 23,
Yeah.
and my seniors were 18.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I wasn't much older than they were.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun, but we were successful.
Yeah.
Because as a whole, and I think it's maybe an expectation, you know, but what shocked me early was how hard they worked. They worked hard.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. You know, and I've had a couple of Division I pitchers. I've had a catcher of mine that went to Oklahoma College and shoot for the Stars out there, and she won 4 national championships.
Oh my gosh.
As a starting catcher.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of success, you know, and I just enjoy it. Then coaching track, you know, is something that Coach Woodward sort of made me fall in love with.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've been coaching shot put and discus for the last 30 years, and had a lot of kids, you know, qualify for the state championships, and many girls, you know, and it's just, I think they want to be coached and not treated different, you know, to some point.
Yeah.
To where, why would you know, say that to that kid, to that boy, but not to me? Why would you coach him that way and not coach me that way? So I just coach the girls the same way I coach the boys, and it's been a really good response over the years.
I appreciate you sharing that. New playoff format, you like it?
Don't care.
Don't care.
And you know, I sort of wrote that down a little bit. When I was in high school, we played the playoff game on Wednesday. We turned around and played another one on Saturday.
Sure did.
Okay, that had to change.
It did.
So it did.
It's a terrible 3 games in 8 days.
So it did. Then it came, okay, we're in a 6-class system. Or actually, what was it, a 4-class system? Then it went to a 6-class system. Now it's an 8-class system. Do I think those are good? Yeah, it had to change. There was no way for certain schools to ever compete in a postseason when you're in a 4-class system and the difference in schools are thousands of people.
Right.
Had to change. You know, then they changed it to where, you know, I remember us getting into the playoffs at 7-2, and other teams not getting in at 7-2.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a winner. You know, you should get in. So they dropped it down. You had to be 5-4 or a conference champion to get in. That changed. Am I seeing the benefit of this one? Not necessarily, until I look at it as now it's not a 9-game schedule, it's a 10-game schedule, and the playoffs start week 2.
Yeah.
So I have to look at it that way in my head, because the last 2 years we've been 3-6, but we're a pretty decent 3-6.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And if we win that week 10 game, okay, they can say they won a playoff game, you know, but it's basically a play-in to the playoffs, and then you're just going. So I just feel like it's actually gone to a 10-week season, you know, for most schools.
I got you. Sure.
And then if you're over or you're a 2-win team and you're not very good and you're not competitive, you don't want to go.
No, you're glad it's over.
You're glad it's over.
Trust me.
You don't want to go.
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Don't put my 0-9 team in the playoffs. We're done.
Correct. You know, we were done 3 weeks ago. We're good.
The summer changes, I know that those are coming along. We're hearing more and more. Is that, you like what you're hearing? Or?
Again, doesn't affect
Doesn't
me
matter.
because I always did that.
Okay.
I always took July 4th weekend off. And
Yeah.
never did
So,
anything.
but the week off in August.
Now it's 2 days, so I lose my vacation.
Okay.
So, you know, because we used to take the first week in August off.
Yeah.
So now we get a long weekend, you know, so I don't really see that much of a change because back in the day, we would start on that Wednesday.
Yeah.
You know,
That's right.
And
That's
we would so it's almost going back to what it was whenever we were doing it.
Yeah.
That everybody's just so used to it being softer and gentler.
I got you.
Now it's just football starts July 6th and it ends on Thanksgiving. You know,
Love your perspective. It is what it is, right?
It is. I can't do anything about it.
What can we expect from the 2026 Rams?
Well, we're actually going to put men on the field now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've gone through 2.5 years here of playing freshmen and sophomores in a 5A schedule.
Yeah.
And we have been, other than it, in the 10 previous years before I got back to Mount Vernon, they were running clock 29 times.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay. We were running clocked one time since I've been back, and that was last year versus you guys.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the wheels fell off, and that was it. Other than that, we have had a chance. We've never lost a game by more than 11 points, and we've been in every game into the fourth quarter playing with little boys.
Yeah.
Now our little boys are men.
Yeah.
You know, they're 17 and 18-year-old men, and they've been in the battles, and they've been tight battles, mostly for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting ready to at least put men on the field.
Yeah.
You know.
I love to hear I can tell there's some excitement in there, some anticipation. I love it. That's great, man.
There is.
Yeah,
There
that's
is.
good. It's a good feeling to know you got a good group coming. And as always, Coach, we've had some great battles, and I've really appreciated being in the South 7 with you and you know, competing against you. Joe Paterno once said, if you've had a good season, a good career, thank your opposing coaches because they have a lot to do with your own success. And I believe you may be a better coach, and I appreciate that. And I wish you all the best, man.
Appreciate
Brother,
it.
It was a great conversation, man. I
you.
appreciate it. I want to thank you for watching and listening again. I want to thank my Ross and Abby for being here today, Swinford Media, Crown Brew. I want to don't forget about Swinford Wedding Videography and Photography, Tony Gooch at Marion Plumbing, Jeff and Matt at Adrenaline Fundraising. And just thank you again for watching and listening and being so supportive of what we do here, getting to see inside the heart and minds of these great coaches that do so much to impact our young people every single day. And Coach Mings is one of those guys. So thanks again. Look forward to seeing you next time.